Hey lads, welcome to another edition of The Tripod. This is the rapid reaction to NRL Round 7, and even I'm a little out of breath after that one, although finally in the last 10 minutes we knew the Knights got the job done for us. That was one of our most confident sides in Round 7, so let's start right there with that game. Mitchell Pearce, take a bow. As you guys know, if you saw the breakdown of the round, we were backing some kind of unpopular home sides this week that people really had given up on, and the Knights were one. And I felt coming into this game, it was their grand final. We've got to remember they won a close game in round 1 and haven't won a game since. Been close in a couple and then just been absolutely awful the last couple of weeks. And, you know, the reason to stick with them was there's still a good amount of talent on this team and a lot of new faces. We knew there'd be improvement there if they could put in the effort. And in front of their home crowd, you could sense it early on. They were bang up for it. And you could just see the exasperation in Brownie's face. I mean, he knew his job was on the line and he knew they had to have this one. And if you didn't catch the game, 20-0 to the Knights early, blitzing the Eels, basically doing to the Eels what the Eels did to the Tigers last week. But they let them back in with a late try and a penalty, only 28 at halftime, and then let the Eels score first in the second half. So I can't say it was a sweat-free win. They had us a little bit nervous there, but got back on top through Mitchell Pearce. And honestly, a performance that good, if you watch that second half, you actually throw his name back into Origin contention. He was absolutely phenomenal, and they get the job done there, the Knights. We had 5 best bets on the game, won all 5 of them, which was nice. We had a 63% round, I should say, 15 wins, 9 losses. So Alex is still on holidays, which is why I'm here on my own. But he'll be back in a couple of days. But it's always good that we can hold it down without Alex. It's better if I've got a partner in crime to go back and forth with the games and talk about who we like and who we agree and come up with some strong best bets. But this week, still able to win 63% of the bets and make money on the multis, which is all we can hope for. And honestly, the multis we could have done a lot better too. There was one game in particular that I'll get to that killed 3 different multis and was bloody close. But that was the Knights. Let me rewind all the way back to Thursday. We had Anzac Day games, and it didn't start well. It was a bit of a grim Anzac Day for us, and we took the Dragons, and this was the first of a couple games where I think we got a bit unlucky. Had 5 best bets on that game, won 2 of them, lost 3. I mean, the one that really hurts is having the Dragons plus 7.5. And, you know, honestly, if you saw that game, which was a cracker on Thursday Arvo, they had the Roosters on the ropes. If you didn't see the game, Roosters started the same way they did against the Storm, 14-0 early, and it looked like could be a cricket score on the cricket ground. The Roosters were all over them, but the Dragons had absolutely no pill, 30% of the ball the first half, and I just felt if they could start the second half well, they could get back in the game, and they did. They get all the way back to 14-10. Dufty scores an all-time try, 50-metre try, makes about 4 blokes look silly, and gets them back to the game 14-10. And man, the Dragons had so many chances after that. A 0-tackle break where they get pushed over the sideline, 20 out on 0 tackle. Benny Hunt drops it not once but twice. Once with a chance to score, reaching out for the line. They could have got their nose in front. The Roosters just held them at bay, and then they end up dropping the ball with a few minutes left. TKO picks it up and plonks it under the post, and we lose by 10 in a game the Dragons could have won. As I said, we had plus 7.5, but we had some other best bets as well that won, like the Dragons to win the second half and the Roosters to not score 3 tries in a row, and neither of those happened. So I call that unlucky. The Roosters are a good side, haven't lost since round 1, but the Dragons fought bloody hard in that game. Another side that fought bloody hard, and this is a game I'm not going to make excuses, got it wrong in the Thursday night game. I really felt the Warriors, with no RTS, no Fusitua, no Carter, but we can argue whether that's a good thing or not, no Blake Green, I gave them no chance. We got the Storm minus 13.5 in this game, and that line closed 18, which is the highest line of any team this season. The only line that's been close to that this season was when the Storm were home favourites of about 17 to the Dogs. And both those games, the Storm at home, I don't know if they're underestimating their opponent, because we know they beat the Dogs by 2 and they had to come from behind. And they had to come from behind, and they didn't deserve the win against the Warriors either. It was 8-0 early, and you got to hand it to the Warriors. I heard the craziest stat. I don't even know if I can believe this one, but Adam Blair had 1 run in the game, which was his try that he scored, the opening try. I don't know how that works. You would have thought if he's, not really playing a big part in the game, they would have got lapped. I thought that the Warriors would get lapped, but they stood up, and look, I don't know if it's a positive or a negative from the Warriors. I mean, they've got to take a lot of confidence out of that, they could go into Melbourne with so many of their key players out and compete in this one. But if you look at the Warriors' last 3 games, the 12-point lead second half to the Bunnies, playing the the Cowboys in a close game, and the Cowboys are very limited, and we'll get to them. And now this one where they had a 2-point lead, and the Storm get an absolutely fucking bogus penalty on a loose play the ball after the refs turned a blind eye to a shitty play the ball by the Storm earlier. It's not fair, and I just wonder if they will actually recover from that, the Warriors. Last 3 games, should have won at least 2 of them, and they've won none of them, but it was a big effort by the Warriors. Storm just looked clunky. I still believe that it's a really quality football team there, and they know they can improve, but they were not on their game, nowhere near any of the best bets. Although we actually had Warriors to score less than 13 points, so we actually had 4 best bets, won 1 of 4, went 1-3 in that game. On Friday afternoon, left this game alone, and actually wanted to take the Bulldogs, but I got a little bit scared off by the news Jason Taumalolo might be back. He didn't end up playing, so what I'm hearing is that he will be sweet to go next week. And look, what I want to say about this game is the Cowboys are very limited. The Cowboys' outside backs are useless, and they won the game over in New Zealand, and maybe that's what gave people hope they'd win this one on Friday. But the key moment in that game against the Warriors was a first tackle kick, and O'Neill scores. And in this game, they went an early tackle count kick, and O'Neill scored as well, I think to get them a lead or at least to tie the game up. If you're doing these all or nothing early tackle count kick plays in attack, you can call it really well executed and good game plan, but really I think it shows they don't have a lot of confidence they can put on a lot of points, and it's because they're very limited. Having said all that, they're going to get Taumalolo back, and that is going to lift them, and he actually generates offense for them, just his barnstorming running ability. The Dogs, very complete and competitive performance, and we've seen that multiple times. You'd probably call the Dogs the worst team in the comp, or at least the least talented team in the comp, but we've seen multiple times where they've been able to beat or at least compete with other NRL sides. It just goes to show how close the competition is. Well-deserved win on Friday for Dean Pay's men. And then I don't know if the Bunnies did deserve to win the Friday night game. I don't want to make a lot of excuses for Penrith. I really loved the spot for Penrith, and we had 5 best bets on the game. We won 2 and we lost 3. Once again, a late try where there was a missed knock on by the Bunnies, and they just scored the very next play, which hurt a lot. And if you saw that game, the Panthers had all the running, a lot more meters, a lot more possession, a lot more territory. Really should have won. Even Ivan Cleary comes out after the game saying that was their best performance of the season. And I thought, especially Wade Egan, giving them some creativity at hooker there, I felt they really did play well. And so, you can make excuses that we lost a close game and we had plus 4.5, they lost by 4, but we had plus 2.5 in the multi at $1.97. That's the only losing leg in the multi this week. I can't remember if that was paying around the 20-1 mark. So that hurts. We had Panthers to win straight up in a couple of other multis. But look, Kikau is an absolute superstar. And, I feel like I do call a few players a superstar. But for me, it's not that he's a back rower who can offload and score tries, but he can do things on the footy field that barely anyone else can do. And he's only been back in this team for a few weeks. I still believe the Panthers are a really good footy side. I saw improvement there. But I can't go past this game without saying hell of an effort in defence by the Rabbitohs. They turned the Panthers away time after time. Panthers let them off the hook with a couple of errors, but you have to admit that it was great defence by the Bunnies, who, again, have only lost 1 game this season. And that's a gutsy win, and I don't know if they were the better team, but when you defend really well, as the Bunnies did, then you can keep yourself in any game, and they did that, and again, they hurt us, especially our multis, so we didn't have a great Friday night, but I can't regret the plays on the Panthers. I felt that they were a strong home side, as were the Broncos and Knights this week. We'll get to that. But in Tamworth on Saturday, the Tigers beat the Titans, and this was a bit of a crazy one with the Titans up 14-0 early and Josh Reynolds injured. And remember, Benji Marshall's not back in this side yet. So you really felt like the Titans were going to roll here, but it did show that they do miss Ryan James, Jared Wallace still out, the Origin prop, Nathan Peets, who's played Origin. Rain had a good game, but there's another key player they're missing, and even AJ Brimson. It does go to show, and the Tigers are a deep side. And look, after the 20th minute, when the Titans got 14-0 in front, they didn't score again. And I have to shout out the Tigers' defense as well. The Tigers are a really strong defensive team. When you bet on their games, you've got to be looking at unders. you got to be looking at their opponent's total to go under. And I think, obviously, we saw the Tigers get 50 dropped on them on Easter Monday, so people are going to say the Tigers aren't good defensively, but that was a game where kind of momentum just completely got the better of them. And once it was no contest and they're down 20 points, they did kind of give up. But when they're in the fight, they are a really stout defensive side. And the Titans threw a lot at the Tigers late in that game when it was still a 2-try game. It was 26-14. The Titans had the ball for like 10, 15 minutes straight on their line. And the Tigers just turned them away time and time again and got a 16-point win in the end. But we didn't have any best bets on that game, which I'm kicking myself because I wanted to play the Tigers in that one, but I just didn't quite have enough confidence. And I felt that the Titans might lift after losing their captain Ryan James and with a bit of confidence of a couple wins in a row. So I don't want to make excuses. Didn't feel confident enough to have a best bet in the game, and the Tigers were too good. Now, Broncos Sharks, if you're in our forum, you've probably seen a bit of the banter going back and forth. I've still got the Broncos as the 4th highest rated side in the NRL, especially this week with Tavita Pangai Jr. was back, Matt Lodge was back, James Roberts was back in the starting lineup. And geez, people have given us a lot of shit for backing the Broncos, and we have backed them most weeks this season. But even last week when they played the Raiders, I mentioned that we got plus 4.5 and they lost the game by 4. That didn't, persuade me that I need to stop backing the Broncos. I thought that was a gutsy effort down in Canberra. And look, I don't want to give the Broncos too much praise for last night's game because the Sharks are an absolute mash unit. But we've been telling you this, that you don't want to back the Sharks. And even when the Sharks beat Penrith, we had 6 best bets on that game and won 5 and got money back on 1. Because Penrith were the values in that game and Penrith covered pretty much all the markets and the game landed on 4. And the Sharkies, it's not just the players that are missing, but it's the guys who are on the field who are not 100%. And it goes to show Dugan was scratched literally 5 minutes before kickoff. Sean Johnson did his hammy 20 minutes in. They were already without Nakora through suspension. So they really had no chance in this one. And the Broncos, as I said, full strength and just absolutely rolled them. And honestly, if anything, you have to be impressed with the Sharks because I think it was 21-0 at halftime, and the second half they scored 1 try each. So honestly, it could have been a lot worse. The Sharkies have a lot of resolve and a lot of gutsiness, but they had 3 blokes in the back 3 who had about 1 NRL start between them. They had blokes on one leg out there, and the Broncos just got a head of steam at home in a game they had to win to relieve a lot of the pressure. So we had 5 best bets on that game and won them all very comfortably. And a lot of people gave us a little bit for backing the Broncos yet again, but it was the value side. Really couldn't see them losing last night. And as we know, they did it comfortably. And finally, the earlier game today, I want to talk about again. I didn't put any best bets on the game, and probably lucky because I actually was leaning towards the Raiders in this one. And you would have felt good about backing the Raiders. You could have got them $1.80 earlier in the week. Kane LG got scratched before kickoff. We know there's no Tommy Trbojevic, no Adam Fanua-Blake for Manly. Raiders have looked so red hot this year. And the Raiders got up 12-0 as well. So it looked like the Raiders were just going to roll them on a beautiful afternoon there at Brookvale. But Manly struck back with a couple long-range tries. I think it was 12-10 at halftime to the Raiders, or maybe 14-12 to the Raiders. And in the second half, Cherry Evans does his ankle pretty badly in attack, drops the ball, and the Raiders go down the other end, and it's Raiders up 2 points. Cherry Evans is limping off the field, so you had Lockie Croker, and I can't even remember who else went in the halves. I think Fainu played a bit of halves, and Sirinen went into the halves. But you really did not have a lot of faith that Manly would be able to win that game from that point, losing Cherry Evans on top of the guys who didn't start the game. But I've got to tell you, massive game by Lockie Croker in his, his first game back since doing his ACL, they were saying exactly a year ago. So good on him. Coruscant, Fainu stepped up as playmakers. And what really stuck out to me, as well as the composure in this team and the really solid defence by Manly, is the structure. Desi, maybe he's got his old magic back because they're running the forwards are running these lead runs with real purpose, and they're always making sure they're going through the line or they're gone inside shoulder of the defender. They're running a lot of these block plays that is making the defence make decisions, and then every now and then they will hit a forward short. And really, they are improving every week because I didn't think that Manly would be able to score many points with no Cherry Evans, no Trbojevic. But they got up in this game, I think, 24-14, and then Raiders got a late try, but Manly holds on for a really gutsy win. So it just goes to show as well, the Raiders, as good as they've been, they were a little off their game today, sloppy in the second half. And, they probably feel they let that one slip, but you have to give a lot of credit to Manly. And that was a really exciting round of footy, a lot of close matches. And again, as I said, a really good result for our best bets. So we're happy with that. And on Wednesday, I'll be joined back by Alex to break down. Can't believe it's already round 8. We're getting close to rep season. So thanks for tuning in to the Rapid Reaction, and hope everyone had a cracking weekend, and we'll get back to it and just keep working hard to pick more value winners for you boys, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Cheers.